Om Ganati Marandasya Ganagana Sarakya Chaksurun Meditam Yana Tajmai Srigarave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yana Bhutare Sayam Rupakaramayam Darati Sa Parantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Siyata Parakamanam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagadatam Sahaganada Ganatam Vitam Samsadevam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shivishyakan Vitam Scha Narayanam Namaskritam Naram Cheva Narotamam Devam Sarasatim Vyasam Tato Jayodiraya Nesta Paresho Vadresu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Tamashoki Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki Nigama Kaparogaritam Phalam Shukamakaran Travisavitam Pibata Bhagatam Rasamalayam Mahora Hora Siko Bhuvavgaham Krishna Swadam Apagate Dhammagan Mihi Sadakaro Nasta Dushamasha Parana Kodunodi Taham Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastaya Bhutare Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namaste Sarasati Deva Guruvani Pachari Nevashes Sanyori Paskita Desatarine Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sri Gaur Bhakti Vindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare. The gang's all here. Malini Preeti, she says she needs some wisdom this Wednesday. Bill, thank you for joining us. Bye, Bobby, Rakesh, Govinda Dev, Thomas, Haribo, Yudha. Oh, we're all here. Nice. And today is a landmark day because we're finally moving to the next verse. We spent 4 days, no less than 4 days, on the 4th verse in the 3rd chapter, 1st canto of Bhagavatam. We're actually breaking new ground now at the snail's pace because we don't want to miss any of the nectar. We want to relish every single word, every sentence, every paragraph, every verse to the ability that we can. Birds fly high and low in the sky according to their capacity. So according to our capacity, we're going to fly as high as we can vis-a-vis each and every successive verse that we encounter. So I think we did a fair amount of justice to the last verse. And now we're turning our attention to 5th verse, 3rd chapter, 1st canto, Srimad Bhagavatam. There's a long purport, and I'm not going to read the whole purport. I'm just going to take the first paragraph and comment on it. Here we go. Etan nanavataranam nidhanam bijam avyayam yasham sam shena srijayante devatiryan nararaya. The form, the second manifestation of the Purusha, is the source and indestructible seed of multifarious incarnations within this universe. From the particles and portions of this form, living entities like demigods, men, and others were created. So this form is Garbhodakshai Vishnu, as we'll read in this purport, and the various incarnations come into this universe through the channel, through the medium of Garbhodakshai Vishnu. And some of them are his portions, which means they are subjective portions, they are integrated portions. They are as powerful as Garbhodakshai Vishnu, who himself is a Supreme Personality of Godhead, who himself is a plenary portion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then there are also particles who come through him, which are demigods, men, and others. And some of those particles are especially empowered to perform supernatural duties within the universe. For instance, Lord Brahma is a jiva soul, but yet he's empowered up to the level of a full avatar or incarnation. Prithu Maharaj as well, Buddha. So we'll read a little bit more about this in this paragraph by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The Purusha, after creating innumerable universes in the Mahatattva, material energy, entered in each of them as the second Purusha, Garbhodakshai Vishnu. When he saw that within the universe there was only darkness and space without a resting place, he filled half the universe with water from his own perspiration and laid himself down on that same water. The water is called the Garbhodaka. From his navel, the stem of the lotus flower sprouted, and on the lotus petals, the birth of Brahma, or the master engineer of the universal plan, took place. Brahma became the engineer of the universe, and the Lord himself took charge of the maintenance of the universe as Vishnu. Brahma was generated from Rajagun of Prakriti, the mode of passion. Vishnu became the Lord of the mode of goodness. Vishnu, being transcendental to all the modes, is always aloof from materialistic affection. This has already been explained. From Brahma there is Rudra, Shiva, who is in charge of the mode of ignorance or darkness. He destroys the whole creation by the will of the Lord. Therefore, all three, namely Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, are incarnations of Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. From Brahma, the other demigods like Daksha, Maricha, Manu, and many others become incarnated to generate living beings within the universe. This Garbhodakshaya Vishnu is glorified in the Vedas and the hymns of Garbha Stuti, which begin with a description of the Lord as having thousands of heads, etc. The Garbhodakshaya Vishnu is the Lord of the universe, and although he appears to be lying within the universe, he is always transcendental. This also has already been explained. The Vishnu, who is the plenary portion of the Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, is the supersoul of universal life, and he is known as the maintainer of the universe, or Kshirodakshaya Vishnu. So the three features of the original Purusha are thus understood, and all the incarnations within the universe are emanations from this Kshirodakshaya Vishnu. That's a long first paragraph of the purport, and there are many other paragraphs as well. But let's get into some commentary in the Brahma Samhita, 3rd chapter, 46th verse. Deparchar eva di shantaram abhupeta, depayate vivitu hetu sadharma, yastadig eva cha vishnavayati, govinamari purusham tamahang bhajami. Because just as a lamp can light other lamps, and then those subsequent lamps can have the same power as the original, so similarly the giant Karnadakshaya Vishnu, from whose pores and breathing come the universes, and who then further expands himself into Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, who is the soul or the seed of the universe, who then further expands himself into Kshirodakshaya Vishnu, who enters into each atom and in the hearts of all living beings. That Karnadakshaya Vishnu is what we call a plenary portion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In other words, he has many of the same powers as the Supreme Lord himself. However, it is from Krishna that Vishnu gets his powers. From Krishna you get many, many innumerable, uncountable Vishnus spread throughout the material and the spiritual worlds. But from all those Vishnus you can't get one Krishna. And that's the distinction. That's why a plenary expansion of Krishna is nevertheless called a portion, because all the Vishnus, all the Brahmas, all the Shivas, they come from Krishna, but from all of them you cannot reverse the process and get a Krishna. Elsewhere it's explained that from milk you get yogurt, and they're equivalent. They're both dairy products. But the difference is that milk is the source of yogurt. However, you cannot turn the process around and from yogurt get milk. Similarly, Krishna is Eke Kanksha Kalokshtam Sam Krishna Stu Bhagavan Swayam. The Krishna who came and sported in Vrindavan and who killed Kamsa is the original source of all of the incarnations. Now, the last paragraph of this report has to do with Yuga avatars. Prabhupada explains that the Yugas, or the ages, Dwarpa is the Golden Age, Treta is the Silver Age, Dwarpa is the Bronze Age, and Kali Yuga is the Iron Age. We learned from Mahabharata that the first age is 1.8 million years, second age is 1.2 million years, the third age is 800,000 years, and the current age, Kali Yuga, is 400,000 years in duration. We're only 5,000 years into that age. Now, for each yuga, or cosmic season, there's an incarnation, and each incarnation for each season is of a different color. The colors are white, red, black, and yellow. So in the Treta Yuga age, the color was white, and that was Kapil Dev speaking to his mother, Devahuti. In the next age, I've heard different. One time I was in the room, and someone asked him, I think actually it was me, who's the red incarnation? And Prabhupada said Prishni Garbha, but on another occasion he said Hayagriva. So I don't know, maybe both of them, or maybe one yuga in one cycle, Lord appeared in red as Prishni Garbha, and another cycle, another yuga, he appeared as Hayagriva. It's not either or, because our time frames are cyclical. Everything goes around, it comes around, and so in one yuga, the Lord can be of one shape, and another yuga, next time around, he's in a different shape. but the color is always red, Prabhupada explains, in the second age, or the silver age. He's black in the Dwarpa age, and indeed Krishna came 5,000 years ago as the monsoon-colored lover of Radha and the supreme lovable object of all the gopis. Then when Krishna left, the current age commenced, which is called Kali Yuga. And in the Kali Yuga, it's explained in the 11th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Krishna Varna Tsitsa Krishnam. In the Kali Yuga, Krishna's color is Akrishnam, it's not black. Sango Panga Parashanam Yagya Sankirtanani Yajanti Pi Shumedisha. Krishna will come in a non-blackish color, and his activities are predicted. He will propagate the Sankirtan movement, the chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, and those people of sufficient brain substance will follow him, follow his dancing form back to home, back to Godhead. Advaitam Achutam Ananta Rupam. So God is one, not that by talking about all these incarnations and avatars, we're worshiping many gods, not that we're polytheistic or pantheistic, but it is that we believe in one God who's omnipotent. That means he personally doesn't have to take charge of every detail of the creation. Simply because of his influence and his power, everything goes on without his personally have to take charge and supervise everything. The tasya karanam chavidyate. Someone who's very powerful, we know that they just have to give a look or a glance, and people know that they better get going. They better get on their giddy up, because they don't want to incur the disapproving glance of the boss or the CEO or the commander or the chief. And so if someone's powerful, they don't even hardly have to speak. They can just indicate by a glance or a raised eyebrow that what they want done and when they want done it. So Krishna doesn't have to do anything. His most intimate business is playing on his flute and reciprocating with his devotees. And yet by the diffusion of his various energies and by the expansion of his avatars and demigods, everything is going on, and in a very precise, punctual way throughout all of the universes. However, never lose sight of the fact that although there are innumerable incarnations, innumerable expansions, innumerable Vishnus, Brahmas, and Shivas, as we said before, the source of all of them is that Krishna who appeared 5,000 years ago in his darkish color in the Dwarpa Yuga season, in the Bronze season, and pinned Kamsa down on the ground and gave him a fatal blow on the head. And it was that same Krishna who stood before Arjuna as his chariot driver at the battlefield of Kurukshetra. When Arjuna at first lamented for the imminent death of his kinsman, lost his nerve, dropped his bow, and became confused due to conflicting options, to conflicting paths of action, Krishna expressed his surprise at Arjuna, Kutastva kasminamidam vishamesam anayajustamashvargama kirtim karam Arjuna. Krishna looks at Arjuna and he says, Arjuna, where have these impurities come from? They are not befitting someone who knows the higher values of life. So what was the basis of Krishna's surprise? Well, part of Krishna's surprise came from the fact that this is not a Vishnu incarnation, this is not a Leela, this is this posing as a Yuga avatar, coming in the Dwarpa Yuga, in the black form. Nevertheless, as well as being the Yuga avatar, he is the source of all the avatars. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Krishna is bemused that in the association, standing right before the original source, the original fountainhead of all incarnations, of all creation, how is it that Arjuna has lost his composure? How is it that standing in front of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Yanhada Darshana Krishna Aisha Kusha Mama, Godhead is light and Maya is darkness. Wherever there's Godhead, there can only be light and not darkness. So standing like 2 feet away from the Supreme Godhead, how is it that Arjuna became overcome by weakness? And of course, in one sense, he didn't. He's playing a role so that we can get the advantage of the instructions that Krishna is about to give to Arjuna. But in another sense, he is a jiva. He's a particle. He's not a subjective portion of the Lord. He's not a integrated expansion of the Lord. He doesn't have the same level of power intrinsically that the Lord does. For the purpose of defeating enemies and clearing out the unrighteous and reestablishing the principles of religion, the Lord can transfer to Arjuna unlimited, the almighty power of the Godhead. But Arjuna himself is a mortal like you and I. Elsewhere, Arjuna asks Krishna, aparam bhavato janma param janma viva katametabiya tamedo praktavamiti. Krishna, you took birth the other day in the Yadu dynasty as the brother of Balaram, and you're a little older than me, you're my cousin brother, so how is it that you spoke this science of Krishna consciousness to the sun god many, many thousands or millions of years ago? And Krishna's answer is, Bahunam Jamanam Te Gyanamam Prabhad Vasudeva Sarvamiti Samahatma Sudurlavaha. Both you and I have taken many births. I can understand them, but you cannot. And the reason that Arjuna's memory can be covered, eclipsed, is that he's also subject to change of body like you and I. And as we change our body, we tend to lapse into forgetfulness. So it is a temporary state of forgetfulness, and it is also a feigned state of forgetfulness into which Arjuna finds himself. And Krishna, with a bemused smile on his face, Krishna is amused by everything. He's standing on the field between two armies who are about to clash and cause great destruction and upheaval. And yet for Krishna, it's all part of the plan. Krishna's got it all under control. None of it is a surprise to Krishna. And even Arjuna's lapsing into ignorance is not a surprise to Krishna. So he's just asking in a bemused, smiling manner, how have these impurities come upon you? And what he's really doing is asking us, how did we end up in this material world? How did we start identifying with these bodies? How did we start dancing to the tune of lust, anger, and greed? And so when Krishna asks a question to Arjuna, you might as well put yourself in the footsteps of Arjuna and ascertain that that's a question that you need to ask yourself. How, in fact, with Scripture, with the multi-incarnations of the Lord, with his instructions from within the heart, and with the examples of sadhus and great souls throughout all of history, how did we find ourselves in our current predicament? So it is not due to any lack on the part of the Lord for reaching out to us and extending his mercy. Now, in spite of the fact that the Lord is constantly incarnating, constantly descending, constantly reaching out to us through holy people, through gurus, through scriptures from within our hearts, we nevertheless cannot just accept any Tom, Dick, and Harry as an incarnation. At any given time in India, there are always at least a dozen self-proclaimed incarnations of God, Vishnu, who are soliciting for donations from their followers and who are accepting worship from their followers. So there are checks and balances by which we need not accept a false incarnation as a bona fide manifestation of the Lord. So there are symptoms of an incarnation. They must have been mentioned in the scriptures prior to their appearance. Also, incarnations do not declare themselves to be incarnations of God. It is the great sages who recognize them. It is the great sages who mention them. And the incarnations of God are known by the particular mission which they execute, having previously been written down in the revealed scriptures. And even Krishna himself acts in such a way as to set the standard and set an example for all living beings. Krishna himself, after all, is Aham Bija Pradapita. He's the seed-giving father of all living beings. And if the living beings are acting up, if they're not acting properly, if they're misbehaving, indirectly the Lord himself feels that responsibility. And therefore, yada yadahi dharmasa glinir bhavati bharata, when there's a general disregard for the regulative principles and for righteous moral behavior, the Lord occasionally, as well as sending incarnations and avatars, personally descends, normally in the black color, in the Dwapara Yuga age, but also in the yellow color in the Kali Yuga age, in order to correct society. We need to take advantage, especially when the original personality of Godhead himself descends, and follow in his footsteps, remembering that we need to key on his instructions and not imitate him. Utsidiro imeloke, in the 24th verse of the 3rd chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Utsidyor imeloke nakoryam karmachedaham sankarashitaraham upahanyam ima praja. Praja are all the created living beings, all the sons and daughters and parts and parcels of the Lord in all the different species of life. And Krishna says, if I did not perform prescribed duties, and the duties are not prescribed for Krishna, they're prescribed for all the rest of us, but Krishna, out of his causeless mercy, adheres to the prescribed duties. He said, should he not do that, should he not act in order to set out guidelines and standards of behavior for living beings, all the worlds will be put to ruination. If he just was passive, if he just sat back and let all of his incarnations manage everything, then by his very inactivity, he would be sending the wrong message to living beings. Arjuna asked Krishna, you recommend renunciation, and you also recommend work in devotion. Which is better? And Krishna says to Arjuna in the 3rd chapter, work in devotion is always better than renunciation of activities. So Krishna is establishing the guidelines, and were he not to do that, he says, I would be the cause of creating unwanted population and thereby destroy the peace of all living beings. So when there are false avatars and when there are pretenders, we have to remember not to imitate the Lord or not to aspire to usurp the position of the Lord, but simply follow him. In answer to those who would claim to be God or allow their followers to worship them as God, we would challenge them. Why don't you lift Govardhan Hill as Krishna did, with the little finger of your left hand, and hold it for 7 days? Govardhan Hill was much bigger in those days. It shrunk since the time that Krishna was on the planet. But even present-day Govardhan Hill is about 25 kilometers in circumference. And for those who circumambulate Govardhan Hill, do the parikram, if you walk fast, you can do it in about 5 or 6 hours. Now, a bigger version of that hill, 5,000 years ago, Krishna lifted up with a little finger of his left hand and held it aloof for 7 days. So we would say to those so-called incarnations of God, why don't you, if you're going to imitate Krishna and presume to be Krishna in so many other ways, then why don't you imitate Krishna in this particular way as well? Don't forget, Krishna did it in his childhood also. He wasn't in his 20s or 30s. He hadn't been going to the gym, taking creatine or steroids in order to achieve the result of lifting Govardhan Hill. Another challenge which Prabhupada used to throw out to all the many pretend incarnations is that if you're the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then why don't you show your universal form? Just as Krishna did before Arjuna. I remember in Australia, one time, there was a boy who came to the evening class in Glebe. He seemed to be slightly intoxicated on something. And so during the question period, Prabhupada said, are there any questions? And he said, I'm God. He said, I created all the universes. And Prabhupada said, how come you're suffering then? He says, I don't have to suffer. I choose to suffer. He says, I'm the cause of the rising of the sun and the moon and the stars and all like that. And then later on the boy said, Prabhupada showed him by logic and argument that he wasn't God, that he fell short of the qualification of God. But then he said, I'll become God. I'll become God. And then Prabhupada said, can you become the president? He said, yes, I can become the president. Then Prabhupada said, then become the president. But he couldn't become even the president of Australia or New South Wales, what to speak of the Lord of a planet, what to speak of the Lord of the universe. He couldn't become anything because he wasn't, in fact, the Supreme Personality of God. He couldn't lift Govardhan Hill. He couldn't show the universal form. There's also the pastime of Lord Shiva, who is sometimes described as the Supreme Personality of Godhead too, inasmuch as he's a plenary portion, and he embodies many, many, many of the qualities of the Lord. We all know that Lord Shiva drank an ocean of poison with no more ill effect than his neck was tinged blue. This hal-hal of poison, which was generated with the churning of the ocean of milk, was so powerful that a drop of it could kill 10,000 elephants. In fact, the poison that Shiva didn't drink, there was simply a drop of it that fell on the land, then that became all the poisonous races of serpents, vipers and cobras, mambas. And Shiva drank the bulk, the majority of the poison, with no more ill effect than that he got a little bluish around his neck. Henceforth he became known as Nalini Kanta, or blue-throated Lord Shiva. But the followers of Lord Shiva, instead of appreciating how powerful he was and what he could do with no ill effect, they try to imitate Lord Shiva. They take various types of hallucinogens and intoxicants. Toxic means poison. So Lord Shiva can drink poison with no ill effect. But if we try to imitate him, then we die. We cannot imitate the great souls. We take the ultimate risks upon ourselves. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bharata bhutanam dharmasya tadatmanam sajameham. We're reminded in this verse that although Krishna has scheduled incarnations, all those bona fide incarnations should be mentioned in the scriptures, as well as along with the name, the mission of the incarnation should be mentioned in the scriptures, and often as not, even the place of birth and the parents are all predicted. For instance, Buddha was predicted 5,000 years ago in the Srimad Bhagavatam. His mission was predicted, his place of birth was predicted. Everything was laid out 2,500 years before he appeared. Just like the TV guide, if we want to know what shows are going to be played in the next month, we pick up our copy of the TV guide, and then we see that on Wednesday night at 7 o'clock this will be going on. Sunday afternoon at 1 o'clock we'll have this. Monday at 1 in the afternoon we'll have this. And so the incarnations of the Lord are certified by having been mentioned in the scriptures. The missions of the Lord are mentioned, and generally the parentage and the place of birth are mentioned. However, the active principle is that there's a discrepancy in religion. There's a lack of righteousness on the planet. There's a domination of tyrants and despots. And so in order to adjust and balance things and protect the righteous and ensure that they can progress in the performance of their religious duties, the Lord appears. So the Lord, although he appears on schedule, he has no obligation because he is completely free to act in any way that he chooses. So therefore, it is by his own will, whenever there's a predominance of irreligiosity and a disappearance of true religion, he comes in order to set the standard and set the example. And this is confirmed in the 19th verse of the 3rd chapter, 6th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Dharmam tu shat bhagavat panitam navai vidurishyo napidevaha nasira mukara sushamana kutasna vididara charanaraya. The standards of religion are established only by the Lord, not the demigods, not the sages, what to speak of human beings, what to speak of the human beings. It is the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself who establishes by his personal descents, his avatars and incarnations, and his empowered representatives It is the Lord himself who establishes the ultimate principles of religion, which is, in the last issue, Sarvadharma Parijjaga Mame Kamsara Hamtam Sarvabhakshya Moksha Simasibra. The last word in religious practices and performances is to give up all varieties of duties and surrender completely and wholeheartedly to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And if in serving the Lord exclusively and uninterruptedly, you may neglect one or another of the various duties enjoined in the scriptures, Krishna says, don't worry. He gives you his personal insurance. Don't worry, I will protect you from all sinful reactions. So people say, well, why does the Lord have to bother himself and bestir himself to come here to set us on the right track? Don't we have scriptural guidelines in order to keep us on the straight and narrow? And the fact is that there are many scriptures with many duties and emphasis on many different aspects of the divinity, and some of these duties and some of these injunctions are contradictory. So it's very difficult to sort through the scriptures. Also, the scriptures are meant for gradually lifting people up from lower levels of ignorance, gradually then to passion, then to goodness, and then to transcendence. You can't go from darkness to light at the click of a finger. There are levels of ascension which the scriptures nurture us and guide us through. But if you key only on scriptures, there are passages of the scripture which actually talk about the performance of sinful activities and deviation from virtue. And there are vast parts of the scripture which encourage one in religiosity, in piety, for temporary material benefits. As it is stated in the 42nd verse of the 2nd chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Yayamam Pashpatam Vacham Prabhavati Avaratara Veda Vatarata Pata Nanyad Astiti Vardhanam Karmatmakam Shargapada Janma Karma Phalam Param Kriya Vishishrabalam Bhogashwarya Satim Pratim. It says that many people are misled by the flowery words of the Vedas which promise temporary benefits within this material world. Krishna loves you too much to keep you mucking around, going from one body to another, from one species to another, from one planet to another, chasing the phantasmagoria of material sense gratification. Therefore, he comes personally to rescue you. Personally, he intervenes to save you with one simple, succinct, easily followed instruction. Give up all other duties. Don't worry about all contradictory injunctions and rules and laws and scriptural contradictions. Simply follow me. Simply surrender to me. Vedas cha sarvaya hameva Vedanta vid Veda creed eva chaham. The ultimate religious principle is just to surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who spoke the Bhagavad Gita face to face with Arjuna as his chariot driver. And it is not a fact that Krishna appears only on Indian soil. He can manifest himself anywhere and everywhere, wherever and whenever he desires to appear. And he speaks as much about religion as can be understood by the particular people under their particular circumstances. So the uniqueness about the Bhagavad Gita is that Krishna is speaking to the highest category of living being. He's speaking to someone who is his friend lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. He's not speaking to the general mass of people. He's not speaking to a casual acquaintance. He's not speaking to a distant cousin. He's speaking to his best friend. When you speak to your best friend, you reveal your most intimate secrets. You reveal what is actually the most important thing on your mind. So the Bhagavad Gita stands paramount and supreme amongst all scriptures, first and foremost, because every word pretty much is right out of the mouth of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which is unprecedented in all the body of scriptural works throughout all the different traditions. And over and above that, not only is the Lord speaking himself, but he's speaking to his best friend. Therefore, we have to understand that the Bhagavad Gita is the highest level of transcendental knowledge. Now, when someone speaks or when they write a book, they leave the most important piece of advice to the end. Everything else simply sets up the hearer for the conclusion at the end. And right at the end of the 18th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says to Arjuna, Sarva Dharmam Parijagya Mame Kam Saranam Vraja Aham Tam Sarva Mokshasi Ma Suchaham. The last word in spiritual life, in practically the last verse of the Bhagavad Gita, which is the words coming right out of the Lord's mouth to his most intimate friend and devotee, is give up all varieties of duties and simply surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is the summum bonum of all religious teachings and all religious activities. So someone says, well, true, that's all very well. 5,000 years ago, people were much more pious. Krishna was personally on the planet. He was standing before Arjuna. All Arjuna had to do was bow down and touch his feet, and it was all accomplished. What are we going to do in the age of Kali, which by definition is the age of quarrel and hypocrisy? People are lazy, misguided, have reduced intellects, not interested in spiritual life. They're mad after material acquisition. I'm wondering if you, sir, are aware of this verse in the 11th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, 36th verse, 5th chapter. Prashad, if you're out there, see if you can create this link. Kalim Shabha Jayanti Arya Guna Kya Sara Bhagina Yatra Shen Kirtanaiva Sarva Shvarto Bila Bhayate. Listen to this. Those who are actually advanced in knowledge are able to appreciate the essential value of this age of Kali. What are you talking about? There's hardly any redeeming features in this Kali Yuga age. People are in darkness. It's full of quarrel and hypocrisy and rank materialism. They're destroying the environment. They're destroying the earth. They're destroying each other. They're destroying the animals. They're destroying their own bodies. What could possibly be good about the age of Kali? What's the essential value of this age of Kali? So it goes on to say, such enlightened persons worship Kali Yuga. Say, are you kidding me? They worship this age, the winter season, the Iron Age. They're worshiping it. Why? Because in this fallen age, all perfection of life can easily be achieved by the performance of Sankirtan. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So Prabhupada explains that Kali Yuga is actually the best age, because in this age, the Lord mercifully distributes. Namo Mahabharanaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namani Gaurtsvaya. He distributes the highest perfection of spiritual consciousness, Krishna consciousness, freely. No price, no tax, no qualifications, no prior history required. It's free for the taking. Just take it and make your life successful. Prabhupada said, the nature of an advanced person is to search for the essence. So although the Kali Yuga is an ocean of fault, those people who are insightful and intelligent, they will root through all the negative things of the Kali Yuga, and they'll find, well, what is the essence of Kali Yuga? The essence of it is Mukta Sangha Param Vajat. All the negative shortcomings of this age can be counteracted by the process of chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Therefore, the intelligent person does not get distracted by all the things that are wrong in Kali Yuga, but they focus on the one great thing that's right in the Kali Yuga. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Facing the onset of the Kali Yuga age, Maharaj Parikshit, he saw this low-class man beating the cow and the bull, introducing illicit sex, intoxication, gambling, and meat eating. He knew these would be the features, the attributes of the coming age. But he said, Kim nu balish surina, kalina bade, apramata pramatishu, yovak dunishavartate. It says, doesn't matter that Kali will be prominent in the coming age. Doesn't matter that Kali will push brothels, butcher shops, all meat intoxication, illicit sex, and casinos. Doesn't matter that Kali will promote all these things and that they'll be everywhere prevalent. He says, Kim nubalish surina kalina. But those who are suffused, those who are empowered and equipped with the chanting of the holy names of the Lord, who are under the guidance, the shelter, the umbrella of a bona fide spiritual master coming into succession, who are purifying themselves, taking the antidote to the age by taking prasadam and associating, choosing as their intimate friends in association, Sango Panga Parashanam, and chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, have nothing to fear from the age of Kali. Wow, what a statement. So we don't have to worry, we don't have to go on Facebook, we don't have to follow politics, we don't have to follow the coronavirus. We may be, for preaching purposes, aware of them from a distance, aware of what's going on in the world remotely, only for preaching, but we don't have to get all down and all depressed and all affected by the circumstances, the age. All we have to do is hold fast to the lotus feet of Krishna, the Guru, and the devotees, and we are assured by Maharsh Parikshit, who was right there at the junction, at the transitional period from Lord Krishna leaving the planet to the emergence of Kali Yuga, this personality in that juncture, in that transitional period, tells you, don't worry, just be very diligent about your spiritual practices. Focus not on the bells and the whistles, but what is essential about this age is that the Hare Krishna mantra in and of itself is capable of delivering anyone who vibrates it, anyone who takes the chanting seriously. This is the essence. Krishna tadiya pada pankaja pancharatyam advayame manashu manasa rajaham sam pana paryama kamapoda kantovadadan bidado shmaranan kutashte. Like the swan looks not at the lotus flower, not at the petals, not even at the stem, but the swan delves with its beak right into the coral of the lotus flower and sucks from within the heart of the lotus flower the essential milk. He draws from within the lotus flower the milk of the lotus flower. Putting aside the stems and the petals and the corolla and the leaves and everything like that, the feature of the swan is that he can extract the essence from the lotus flower. That same swan, if there's a mixture of milk and water, he puts his beak underneath the surface of the water and he can pull out the milk, leaving behind the water. So similarly, that is the blessing, the gift that our spiritual master has given us. Focus on the essence. And just like in life, between matter and spirit, the essence of life, the most important thing to focus on is not this body, but it's the spirit within the body. It's more important to take care of the spirit than it is the body, just like it's more important to take care of the driver of the car than it is the car. So gradual elevation from bodily consciousness to understanding and identifying the spirit soul, from knowing I'm eternal, is the first stage of spiritual realization. From there, one has to make further progress to discover that although you are spirit and you're not this body, you're eternal, there is within your heart and within every atom an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead called Kshodakshay Vishnu, and he is emanating from the soul of the universe, Garbhodakshay Vishnu, and then from that level of perceiving the difference between the soul and the super soul, then one comes to the last level, the highest level of spiritual realization, which is called Bhagavan, to realize the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his own abode. This Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in the Kali Yuga age, he has bypassed all the lower stages of realization and taken us by elevator right to the top. We didn't have to get here by climbing arduously hundreds and hundreds of stairs through the various processes of yoga and austerity and penances. By Lord Chaitanya's mercy, by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, we have been taken, as it were, by elevator to the very, very highest level of spiritual realization. And in concluding here, Prabhupada said that to think of God, you should not think of him only in terms of being the standard setter and the superintendent of this material world. All the various incarnations, they are meant for reestablishing the principles of religion within this prison house of the material world. And it is certainly one of the duties of the king to maintain the prison house. But we shouldn't focus on that aspect of the king or the president. Of course, it's true to say that ultimately they are the controller of the prison house or the prison department, but their actual life is not in administering justice to the foolish prisoners. They have their own world, their own associates, their own unlimitedly pleasurable and variegated activities in terms of the internal potency of the Lord. So although we learn about the unlimited power of the Lord by studying how it is that the demigods and the incarnations administer this material world on his behalf, we worship that Supreme Lord who himself personally enjoys the ocean of transcendental bliss in his own kingdom. And thus, the realization of Krishna, and none other than Krishna, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as residing amongst his jewel-like devotees within his own kingdom, is far superior level of realization and understanding than that the Lord is the creator of the material world. The realization of Krishna in his personal feature as Bhagavan begins by understanding all the incarnations, all the avatars, all the four-handed predominating Vishnus of the Vaikuntha planets in the spiritual sky, but also realizing that they are only expansions and expansions and expansions of that Lord who lives in the highest and the biggest spiritual planet, which is called Krishna Loka, wherein the Supreme Personality of Godhead exhibits his supreme and original form of Govinda, Ishvara Parama Krishna, Satchidananda Vigraha, Anadiradir Govinda, Sarva Karana Karanam. Thus, love of Krishna and entrance into Krishna's planet in the spiritual sky is the most supremely perfect and exalted status of life available anywhere at any time throughout the totality of existence. And the good news this Wednesday morning is that that perfection is available in Kali Yuga simply by chanting the holy names of Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Therefore, Prabhupada says, every sane man, woman, or child should deeply understand the unprecedented opportunity offered by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and seriously take up this chanting process. Only the most unfortunate and irrational person will neglect this transcendental opportunity. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you so much for taking advantage of the opportunities that are available and joining us on this Wednesday, Wisdom Wednesday, for honoring and glorifying the Lord and focusing on the essence of the age, the essence of the teachings of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the essence of all the Vedic scriptures, which is to surrender to the Lord fully and wholeheartedly by chanting his holy names. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. The emojis have been flying. It's so, when I get a little bit excited and then I see your emojis, well, I get more excited. Thomas, thank you so much. Malini Preeti, did you get some wisdom? She said, I'm joining you so I can get some wisdom. I hope you did, Bill. Vaibhavi, Devi Dasi, Yudha, Anjali, Hare Krishna. Happy Wisdom Wednesday. Prashant, Jimmy, I've got your lip balm on. Rupa Manjari, Radhe Sham, Sundari Priya. Alan, thanks for joining us. Alan Thakur. Roman, Hare Krishna Roman. Whoops. Okay. Manasa Ganga. Everybody, please note that Prashant's got those links up. He's got the quotes up. Lakshmi Nrsinga, honored, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Jai Lakshmi Nrsinga. Daik Nud. I can't pronounce your name, I'm sorry, but thanks so much for joining us. Nukdo. Daik Nukdo. Interesting. Chaitanya Mangala. Govinda Dev, Joe, thanks for joining us, Joe. Jean. Anyway, we've got quite a crew here, or Shungi. Appreciate the opportunity to share with you. Appreciate your partnering with me to interact with the emojis. Please share. Please join. Please comment. I'll review the comments as soon as I come down from this wonderful euphoric feeling that I've had by being a conduit of the transcendent philosophy of Bhagavad Dharma. That opportunity would not be available to me were you not to be willing participants and willing audience. So until we meet again, we'll be back for Motivational Monday next week. And in the meantime, we have a number of shows on the weekend, Saturday night, Sunday morning. But whenever it is that we join together again, please don't forget to chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.